Welcome to Shrink Wrap, a podcast where Franne and Becky give proper respect to various mental health and wellness topics,
while adding in a little bit of smart assery that they just can't seem to contain.
This podcast cannot and does not constitute therapy advice.
However, we do hope that you find the information we share with you helpful and entertaining.
Please be advised that this podcast discusses topics that can be sensitive to some listeners. Use appropriate discretion.
Okay, welcome. Episode 2, Season 2. Here
Hello.
we go.
Hey, baby.
Hey, baby. So can we take a moment and talk about Simone Biles? Is that okay? It's a mental health thing.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I would be fascinated to hear what you have to say about this.
Yes.
I do. I greatly admire her. I'm going to be really honest.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it took a ton of courage.
I know. And, taking a pause to take care of yourself, not just because of a physical injury, but because of mental pressure and overload and whatever.
Yeah.
Good for her.
So just to set the scene. So it is July 29th, 2021.
Yes.
And so explain for the people who are not binging the Olympics, what has happened here with Simone Biles and who is Simone Biles?
Well, Simone Biles is, I think, undoubtedly, unquestionably, probably the greatest gymnast ever. Mm-hmm. She's insane. Mm-hmm. And how old is she? She's young.
She is early 20s, isn't she?
Like 24 or 26.
Yeah. So prefrontal cortex barely done developing.
Mm-hmm. She admittedly has ADHD, had troubles with childhood growing up. Obviously a sexual abuse survivor.
And we say obviously because of Dr. Nasser,
right,
who has been convicted.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And she's been vocal about that.
Right. And obviously, so no stress and no childhood trauma, right?
No, none.
So she should have all of her shit together.
Totally, yeah.
Right?
I do. I have seen some of the stuff that says she's a quitter and we're embracing the quit culture.
Hang on, though. Wait.
Oh,
so
okay.
For those not aware, what happened? What did she do?
Oh,
Why
sorry.
are we talking about her?
She bowed out. Mm-hmm. She said, I'm done.
Not on everything. I think she agreed to do the individual competition, but not the team competition.
Okay.
That's my last understanding of where she was at.
Yeah. And you're probably way more informed than I am because I don't read it all. But yeah, she just said, I'm not up for it.
Yeah, she did like one vault in the team competition and then said nope. And her form wasn't good. And so, yeah, she bowed out. But then people are like, well, what's going on with Simone?
Yeah.
And the amount of pressure that she's under, though, so I don't know. I would be interested to hear your take on, I guess, mental health versus just the pressure of being called the greatest gymnast to ever take the vault.
Which I think goes hand in hand with the mental health.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Is the pressure, the societal pressure different than just mental health? Is she just like, nope, like this is all too much? Like, I don't know. What's your take?
Well, I found some interesting posts on Facebook, so take them with a grain of salt. But people compared her to, I'm going to totally butcher this, but it was some gymnast, I want to say from like the Ukraine.
Nadia Comaneci?
Nope, not her. It was somebody I'd never heard of. So we're talking like Olympics in the 70s when I was a little kid. Mm-hmm. And she overextended her leg or something. And so she really shouldn't have been competing. She was in a ton of pain. Mm-hmm. And her coach was like, you can do this. You just need to push through. And she did. And I get goosebumps. She fell off the beam, hit her chin and ended up being a quadriplegic.
Oh God.
And like died in her 20s. Ugh. And so, I mean, there's an example of she should have been allowed to say, I don't think I've got what it takes to do this. Mm-hmm. And then the coach be like, yeah, okay, that's fine.
Right.
You're injured. And then they say, like, even if it was like just a mental game, it wasn't a physical issue with Simone. When you look at the stuff she does, which is stuff that, you guys, I can't do a cartwheel.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I can barely sit crisscross applesauce these days. So when you look at the stuff she can do, and they were talking about changing the scoring because it's not fair that she can do it all so perfectly.
Right.
And like nobody said, well, when Michael Jordan plays, we're only going to give him 1 point per field goal because he's so good.
Right.
But they did that to her. So if you think about, if she's off just by a fraction of a nanosecond, she could break her neck.
Right.
I think it's okay to say, my head's not in the game.
Yeah. And I think that more and more we're seeing other athletes being willing to step aside. Entertainers are stepping aside when they're not, not doing well emotionally.
Yeah.
And I think, again, it's giving people permission to say, I need to get my shit together. That's okay.
And why are we I get why we're so obsessed with the Olympics. We want to be the best and it's the best of the best. But why are people taking it personally? Mm-hmm. That's what I don't understand. She let her country down. Oh, okay. Well, if she would have ended up a quadriplegic, then yay, USA. Yeah. That's what I don't get. It's okay if she ends up dead, but it's not okay for her to bow out.
Maybe she's in the shadow of Carrie Strug, right?
Right.
The girl who vaulted, this was 10, 20 years ago, but vaulted and damn near broke her ankle doing so. Right. But, that was her showing up for America. So especially in her own sport, you have that precedent.
You do. Well, in gymnastics, I think has a precedent just across the table. I had a friend who was a gymnast all through high school and maybe college. I'm not 100% sure. And she said, my girls will never do gymnastics. Mm-hmm. And we had Grace in it. She just liked it. So she did it. And then she got obscenely tall. So we were in fact, a friend of ours, who's her orthopedic surgeon, he said, I want to see her on the beam one more time. That's what he said this weekend. And I'm so her toes can drag. Yeah. But I also thought of it as the parent of a talented athlete, and where she goes with it, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But we always tell her, have fun. The minute you quit having fun, it's not worth it anymore.
Mm-hmm. I will never forget when my son was little, he was in wrestling, which was really hard to watch. But I remember we were watching a boy wrestling. He was a phenomenal wrestler. His dad was sitting behind us. He was a huge guy. Obviously, he had been a wrestler himself. And his son cried out in pain. And he wasn't the kind of kid that was faking it for drama. And anyway, long story short, the dad stepped in and he said, we are stopping this.
Oh, wow.
Now. We are stopping it now. And he gave his son permission to get off that mat. He hugged his son and he said, there's another day.
There is another day.
Yeah.
And I had a friend whose kids are the same age as my two older kids, and she has since passed away of breast cancer. However, one of the things she told me, and her daughter was a collegiate volleyball player, but she always told her daughter in high school, you need to study because you are one blown knee away from all of this going away. Mm-hmm. And so we've always told our kids that, what you have upstairs is what's going to pay the bills. And so the rest of it's just for fun.
Mm-hmm. But this isn't just for fun for Simone. This is who she is. This is her livelihood, and I feel good for her for taking care of herself.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And I guess I didn't lose any respect, and I don't consider it part of quit culture. I just don't. Mm-hmm. It's one thing to say I'm not ready to risk my life, and it's another thing to say, oh, I guess flipping burgers wasn't as fun as I thought.
Right. Exactly.
So, I don't know. I was just curious what we all thought about that, since it's kind of blown up the interweb the last few days.
Right.
Well, I hope we have a fantastic factoid.
Oh, of course. And I'm glad we labeled it fantastic instead of nerdy, because I'm taking a more positive
because you're not a nerd. No.
So, I'm not going to do answer together, because we all know that Becky doesn't follow the rules. So I'm going to ask Brody first.
Okay.
What is it about aging that makes women happier as they get older, especially between the ages of 50 to 70? No interruptions.
What is it that makes aging better for women?
It makes them happier as they get older.
What the frick?
I think, and I guess I mean this with the most respect, you lose a give a damn. I don't know, the societal. I was just reading on Reddit this morning. There was just a feed about women, what do you want to know from men, but I've always been afraid to ask. And one of them said, do you judge us on our bodies as much as we judge ourselves? And every guy was like, no, that's not happening. So as you get older, you just stop caring. I don't know. Maybe it's either that or increased sex drive. So I don't know.
Okay. Could be both. Go ahead, Becky.
I agree with him. You just quit caring.
Okay. So here it is. Research from Australia followed women for 20 years and attributes some of this to the fact that women received more me time as they got older. Oh. So spending time doing whatever the hell they wanted to do. And with that me time comes a lot of satisfactory revelations. hindsight's 2020, people, right? One of the biggest ones is that I wouldn't have been as concerned about my physical appearance.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I feel like I win.
Boom.
I got it.
Yeah, go
Yes.
Brody. And as someone in my early 40s, joking, in my mid 50s, I can honestly say I am so much more relaxed about that. It's just like, hey, whatever, it's good. We're good.
We're good.
Yeah.
We're good. As long as we're healthy, we're good.
I can walk. I can talk. Well, sometimes, you know, it's all good.
I love that. And I wish younger people, and maybe they are, I think some of them are starting to embrace that. And I like that.
I do too. Yeah. I love it. So today's show is entitled Shit People Never Told You. I love this. And a shout out to my client who gave me the idea, the beautiful, brilliant client that I have. You know who you are. So,
I don't think you can say that online. You can't. I mean, now you know who you are is going to, like, everyone's going to know.
Everybody, you know, it's kind of like with your kids. All her clients are going to be sitting back going, well, obviously she was talking about me. I'm the beautiful, brilliant one.
It's like calling out the freckle belly. So, I mean, I don't want to tell you how to do your HIPAA, but I'm not sure you can say that.
I'm going to risk it. I'm totally going to risk it.
I loved this one because I think there's so much sage advice that if we could go back and give it to our younger selves, it would be wonderful. And one of them is ditch the shoulds. Or I don't know if you learned this in cognitive behavioral therapy, but shoulding all over yourself.
Absolutely. Yes.
And this just cracks me up. And it triggers me just a smidge. You should get married. You should have kids. You should do this. So you get married when you have a kid. So then you have a kid when you have another kid.
Right.
I just had a client today. She was like, yeah, they're asking me when we're having number 2. And I'm like, why don't you enjoy number 1? And she goes, exactly. Like,
like it's a race.
He's not even a year old. Like, just enjoy what you have. And what is good for you may not be good for the next person. So for those of you that like to, push out a kid every, 7 months, good for you. Glad you like it. Right. I was like 3 and done, and that wasn't even planned. So, and you should go to college. Says who? Maybe you want to go to like a VOTech and learn a trade and do that. And just, you have to do what I think brings you joy. And if that's a little off the beaten path, then who cares?
Exactly. Yeah. We talked about this one before, but I think it's worth repeating, is that marriage is a business contract or any kind of partnership, a love relationship, because it's like if that person does not bring out the best in you or support what you value and what you love, then that's going to take energy away from you being the best that you can be.
Well, I want to point out, because I think what you said in our relationship, like healthy relationship one, what you said is not a business contract. You said it is the most important business decision you will make. And that resonated. Those were some strong words, Fran Sipple.
Well, once in a while, I kick it out.
Boom.
Right?
Yeah.
Boom.
And along those lines, I tell my kids this. I mean, Jim just shakes his head. Sexual compatibility is important. And that's why I say, take that shit for a ride. Make sure it works.
Thanks for the visual. Appreciate that.
Well, I don't visualize my kids, but you do you, Fran. I'm not going to tell you how to mother.
Actually, I was thinking of you and Jim.
Oh, God, I definitely don't visualize that. Although that's probably the only way he gets it these days. Visualize, Jim. Visualize. But it is
Close your eyes.
Close your eyes. It is so important.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, make sure you're compatible.
I think that everybody should have time living alone without another human and figuring out, like, who do I want to be?
Yeah.
Right? Not in relationship to anybody else. That's a luxury. Of course, we can't all afford to do that, but I think that is a beautiful thing if you can afford to do that.
I think so too. Yeah.
Did you ever have that time alone?
Oh gosh, now you're making me go in the Wayback Machine.
I know.
I don't know that I did, to be honest.
I totally did not.
I went from college to, I was engaged in high school. You're welcome, Mom and Dad. And so I went from engaged in college to living with my husband.
Yeah.
As a 20-year-old.
Mine, I think I was single, like alone in an apartment just for like a hot minute, like in between boyfriends.
I like the spending alone time. I know you said living alone, but I think it's important just to have alone time, if that's what feeds your soul. And even if you have little kids, find a way to do that. Work it out with your business partner, get a babysitter, do whatever you need to do. But just have some alone time.
And that is something like our parents, at least my parents, never encouraged me. Like, it's really important important, not only that you spend time alone, but enjoy your time alone.
Right.
Like a lot of people are scared of it. They'll do anything to avoid being alone. I'm so lonely. I don't know what to do with myself. And it's like, enjoy that time. It's golden.
So speaking of that, I just have to mention this. So my mother-in-law stayed with us last week and she's coming back in a couple of weeks and she's 89 and freaking fabulous. Like I just love this woman so much. And we went to Hobby Lobby for an hour and a half, which is the seventh circle of hell for Becky. However, watching her and Allison interact, because they both love shopping, was like the best gift ever. I just stood back and watched them go. But she introduced me to something called diamond art. Have you heard of this?
Okay. Does it have to do with like some kind of, is it the same as jewel art?
No, it's so weird. It's like a cross between, I don't know, embroidery and something else. It's not, you do what you need to do with your diamond art, but you have like this little plastic thing and you put little, and you make a thing. And it's like
that narrows it down. I can picture it right now.
It's like embroidery and latch hook meet plastic.
And tattooing. What are you even talking about?
It's like pixel art.
Yeah, pixel art. There you go.
So little dots that happen to be jewels. I think it is very similar to jewel art, but then it goes on like a sticker sheet or something.
Yeah, and you have a little, well, mine has a little outline. I'm sure people don't always need them, but.
My girls are into it. It stresses me the hell out. I can't do it.
Okay, so me and Brody's young daughters.
Okay, perfect.
But what the heck, why not? Don't let relationships with others define you. And I think that's really important. But I want to hear more from Fran. When you read that, what do you think?
No, but so many times, and I don't mean to like diss on young women, but I just hear it more from young women than men, that they feel they always have to be in a relationship, a significant relationship. They always have to like try to make the guy happy, try to please him. This is 2021. Yeah. Why? Right. Why are we doing this?
As I was reading this and as you were talking, it made me think of, I'm a huge Parks and Recs fan. With Leslie Knope and all her friends, and her friend Anne, they have this fundraiser where they have like a rummage sale, and Anne has a box from every of her relationships. So like when she was with Andy, there's like a grunge box. And then when she was with, the super healthy guy, Rob Lowe, whatever his name was, I can't think of it, but she had like all the health kick stuff and every box kind of defined her by the relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, just be you. And if somebody doesn't like it, then
right.
hell with them.
But that takes self-confidence, self-assurance. And it also takes a knowing of who you are, who you want to be.
Yeah, it does. Which I think leads right into the next one.
Which is set and keep firm boundaries with homework, friends, lovers at the get-go.
Lovers.
So, lovers. So, I will use my daughter as an example. One of the guys...
Camille.
Yes, lovely Camille. One of the guys was late on a date and she just told him, my time is important. It's valuable. I really need you to be on time. And I also need you to plan a date. That would mean a lot to me.
There you go.
And shout out to the guy. He stepped up and was willing to do that. So I think
so cool.
Yeah. And I think it's a kind boundary. It wasn't mean, but it definitely was set at the beginning. And I think if a person is willing to respect that at the get-go, that's a really good sign.
I think it is a really good sign and good for her for doing that. Because you're right. It wasn't mean. It was just saying, hey, like if his dog died and he's like, I had to stop by the vet. It's different, but.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Expectations are the seed of all disappointment, right? Like now he knows what the score is. He knows what the expectations are. And then it's a lot easier to live up to that.
Right.
So along with that, you just can't I'm thankfully married and not in this position. But, and of course, Brianna and I never have disagreements and the expectations are always crystal clear.
Absolutely,
but, you're not playing games. It's not this mind reading thing, but it's just, it's clear boundaries and it's clear expectations.
Brene Brown says clear is kind and unclear is unkind. And I always try to remember that. And so just be clear.
Right.
Yeah. I like that Fran always decides who's going to do which one. And she has me saying, treat yourself with the same kindness and compassion that you treat others, because she's a bitch.
Yes.
So, totally. And she knows that I am not always the best at this. Yeah. But your self-talk is really important. And it is important that you talk to yourself with the same kindness that you talk to others. And I do work on that. And a long time ago, I was at a workshop and they said, you should have clients. So on day one, they have to talk to themselves or talk to others the way they talk to themselves. So like if somebody trips, you're like, oh my God, you're so stupid. Everybody saw you trip and you're dumb. And then on day 2, you have to talk to yourself the way other people would talk to you. So again, you trip and you go, hey, don't worry about it. Nobody saw that. It's okay. Like you're super cool. Don't even worry about it. And I've told that to different clients over the years and they say the same thing. They're like, I don't know which would be harder, day 1 or day 2.
Day 3 is when the Italian parent goes, what are you, stupid? What are you, a moron?
Day 4, the German parent. Listen, there are children starving in Africa. Put a Band-Aid on it and get back to work.
Okay, I am going off the train here. Listen to me. What? I am giving my OCD a little vacation.
Growth, guys.
I know, and I'm totally thinking about, like, I wish that people would have told me, like, when you're pregnant, what you can expect, because I felt like an alien took over my body. Like, first of all, I have no boobs, and then all of a sudden I had boobs, and then they had veins on the boobs. I was just like, okay, what the hell?
Yeah.
What the hell?
What the hell?
Is that? And just like hormones, like how I felt like I was invaded by Satan sometimes. Okay, you guys, I got to tell you the story.
Oh, no.
Okay, so here I am.
Oh, someone put a quarter in her today.
Wow. Thank you, Dos Equis.
I am 7.5 months pregnant. And you guys, seriously, I gained 40 pounds with each child. So I was huge and hot and very bitchy. So my mom and Nana came to visit. My Nana's 4 feet tall, Italian, right? Nana was on strike. She was not going to take a bath anymore. She was done with bathing.
Whoa.
It was day 3. It wasn't good. It was hot.
There's a whole other story to unpack. For that.
Yes.
So we best leave it alone, Nana.
So my mom is like, Mother, you have to take a bath. We're visiting, blah, blah, blah. I am not. She crossed her arms. She was not. Okay, so now I've got supper. I'm getting pissed. They're arguing. That little woman will not get her ass in the bathtub. So anyway, my mom starts crying. My mom does not cry. And Nana will not get in the bathtub. So I'm like, all right, listen up. Get your ass in the bathtub now. And Nana just looks at me and she's just like,
this is fascinating.
Oh, no, here it goes. Listen up, Humpty Dumpty. That's what she called me. Whoa. She called me Humpty Dumpty.
Uh-oh.
Listen up, Humpty Dumpty. Whoa. You're going to have a horrible pregnancy. Oh, she put the Italian curse on me.
I was going to say, it sounds like she was putting a hex on you.
She freaking cursed me. And I said, I would have had your ass in a nursing home years ago. Meanwhile, my dad and Mark, I don't know what the hell they were doing because neither one of them.
They were hiding. Oh my God, that's what I would do.
I think they left the house.
I would be in the North 40.
I am just saying, this is not my normal self.
I can just hear your dad. Francine's going off. We gotta go.
Dad, come on, let's get out of here.
Oh my God. I'm telling you, something takes over your body. So the moral to the story is don't ever get pregnant.
Don't do it. Yeah. Life sentence with no parole.
So you cannot change your partner.
Poor Brody.
You cannot change your partner or how they act or set their priorities. So when you start dating a guy and he's a workaholic and all he wants to do is work, if you think we're going to get married and then it's going to change and then I'll be spending quality time, bitch, he's nowhere to be found. And that's going to be you, the single mom, metaphorically speaking.
Right.
And he's going to be a workaholic. So just if you can't accept that person as they are, don't waste your time.
Well, and not only is it not wasting your time, but it's like, who are you to say they have to change?
Right. True.
So I don't know.
Now, you two are in the career of helping people change.
Right.
So can people change then would be the question that I would pose to that.
Absolutely. But they have to want to. Mm-hmm. And so it's not up for me to say, Fran, you need to be less OCD because you're driving me apeshit. Mm-hmm. It's up to me to say, this is a part of Fran and I love her. Just like it's not for Fran to say, you know what, Becky, could you be a bit more on the ball because you're driving me apeshit. She knows that about me and that's how we work. And so now if I want to say, I'd like to be more on the ball, that looks like a lot of fun. Then it's okay. So
right.
Yeah, usually, but if people do come to us and they're like, yeah, so-and-so says I got to change, we kind of have a bigger uphill battle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just is what it is. So leads into the next one. Focus on what you can control. My mom always said this. You can't control other people's actions. You can only control your own reaction.
Marie said that?
Marie said that, and I never forgot it.
Oh,
and
my
she's
gosh.
totally right. So, sometimes, and we talk about this with couples a lot, so I'll say, hey, I want you to, if I'm only seeing one person, I'll say, hey, I want you to go home and I want you to say to your wife, what can I do to help? And then he's like, are you fucking kidding? Oh, I'm sorry, Marie. Are you kidding me? Like, I shouldn't have to do what you, I'm like, no, just go home and try that and see what happens. Because a change is going to possibly affect a change. And so you go home and you're like, hey, babe, how can I help you? And then she's like, whoa, this is really awesome. And now I kind of want to have sex with him. And then before you know it, they're having sex for the first time in 17 months and everybody's happy.
Right. Because sometimes a change can enact equal and opposite reaction in the other person without you demanding that the other person change. Right. Sometimes,
not always.
Not always. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, a really important one is be with someone who wants to learn and grow, evolve or die. So if that's, I wish somebody would have told me years ago, that is something to look for in a spouse because, you think about, I want to marry someone who's cute and they make decent money and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, what are the personality characteristics that really, really matter over time?
I do. I think that's so huge. And, over the weekend, we were in Sioux Falls. We had 4 days of volleyball. We had 2 separate volleyball camps and then a team camp. And so while Grace would be at volleyball, Jim and I would have to be like the Sioux Falls tourist. And it was really fun. We went to the falls and we were sitting there and we were talking about a ton of things. And as we were talking, I thought, how cool is it that 30 years later, almost 30 years of marriage later, we can still sit down and have a talk about, I don't know, whatever. One of the things he said, and I don't remember what we were talking about, but he said, and I'm just going to share this. He said, too often people think that they're good people because they don't do bad things, but they forget that being a good person means that you have to think of other people and be good to them. I was like, damn.
Yes, that was
CPA
beautiful.
Coop, that was amazing.
That was amazing.
I'm going to write that shit down. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it was really cool. And then when we talk about not only somebody who wants to learn and grow, but when we talk about what is a turn on, kindness and compassion. And I mean, Jim is kind to a fault. It almost drives me a little apeshit. He's so community oriented, but then it also prompts me to be a little bit more community oriented. The other thing though, for me is humor. And for, I can get so stressed out. I know it's hard for either one of you to imagine. But that man can say one thing and I just bust a gut.
Yeah.
And it's awesome.
Yeah, that I think is like gold because it can diffuse any situation. I remember years ago when I went through one of the most horrific experiences of my life. I was just so stressed out. I mean, seriously, I don't even recall half that year. But anyway, my husband texted me in the middle of the day. He's like, I've got great news. And I just thought to myself, oh, thank God. And he said, Dairy Queen is hiring.
Do you want gravy or barbecue sauce?
Exactly.
Gravy.
You gotta love that. I mean, somebody who can diffuse a situation with humor is gold.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another thing that I wish somebody would have told me 23 years ago is don't let people walk all over you, including your own children. I'm so guilty of that. I will admit it. I do let my kids walk all over me. I don't know. I call it picking battles, but other people could disagree.
Right. I mean, you do have to draw the line, but it's like, I just think about like generationally, like how our parents treated us to how we treat our kids. And it's like, there has to be a happy medium.
There does.
Really? I mean, do we have to go from negligence to worship? Is there nothing in the middle?
We were in, when Allison was at college in Brookings, she was home for a break and we were in Target and we were arguing about something and we're very similar. So we argue about a lot. And all of a sudden I thought, why am I arguing about this? Like I very rarely get to see her. And so she was arguing and I said, by the way, I'm done. And she's like, what? You don't get to just be done. And I'm like, no, I'm done. I said, I don't get to see you very often. I'm not going to spend the time arguing. And she stomped off. And a mom next to me like burst out laughing. So I'm like, oh, she gets it. And then she came up to me like a few minutes later and like nothing ever happened. But I thought, no, I'm done.
Yeah, it's not worth your energy, really.
I'm declaring the present session closed, so we'll see you later.
And that keeping in mind that your relationship, and Brody has talked about this in the past, has to be the top of the food chain. When you have kids, that relationship hopefully will survive your kids.
Yeah.
And if it's not a priority, what is it going to be?
Yeah.
30
I was
years
here
later.
first, so you can get in line.
There you go.
That's the best way to put it, too.
Exactly.
Look for commonalities when you're looking for a potential mate, or whether just a friendship. What do you have in common? And make sure that there's some common ground there, because I think that's where we see people get, they lose themselves in things, and just make sure that you have these things that you agree on, especially if it's going to be a long-term relationship.
Right. One thing that I tell my clients and my kids over and over is that, like, if you have a major thing going on in your life, and let's say, for example, you work for a boss and the boss is really disrespectful to you, and you're not handling it. You're not talking to the boss. You're not dealing with it directly. I'm not going to deal with it. They're coming to therapy and they're really not putting in effort to do anything differently. I say, don't worry about it. This boss, Joe, he's going to go away. And then guess who's going to appear? Boss Sally. And she's going to make Joe look like a cakewalk. So lessons will repeat themselves until they're learned. And then the universe says, good job. Here's the next lesson.
Yeah. I tell people that all the time. I'm like, that with which you struggle, the universe will continue to put in your path. Like, for some, it's patience. I don't know who. Like, not me.
Oh, not me.
No, not me at all.
Oh, no. No.
When I was little, I had a little needlepoint thing in my room that said, "Dear God, please give me patience, but hurry up." So apparently this has been an issue from a long time ago. Yes. So I can't really get mad at my kids when they struggle with it too. The biggest thing that we want to talk about, well, this is why we did the podcast. Okay. Everybody buckle up.
Yeah.
Therapy is normal. It's normal. You should do it. I just saw a thing the other day that said, this is why therapy is better. I don't want to say better, but maybe more useful than talking to your partner, because people think therapy, we're like, oh, let's just talk about our feelings. No, like, we're trained in helping you problem solve and work around things and work through things. And so go get the therapy. And what we're seeing right now is, because I had somebody say, but Becky, you can't get into anybody for weeks. It's a true story.
Right.
Schedule the appointment now.
Right.
Don't wait for the crisis to hit. I tell people all the time, schedule every 2 weeks. And if something comes up and you can't meet with me, give us 24 hours notice so we can fill it and then go about your day. But it's easier to cancel than it is to try and get on the schedule.
Right. And recognizing therapy is not just about, okay, my life has totally imploded. Now it's a crisis. I need to get in. How about for maintenance, or how about for prevention?
Right. Let's build some skills.
Right. So, like, let's say you had your young adult and you went through a pretty tough childhood. You're going to bring some of that stuff into your current relationship with somebody you're going to marry. Would you not want to sort through some of that before carrying it all into your marriage, like with your luggage? Like, hey, here I am. Here's my luggage.
I think a lot of our young people are better at it I know they're better at it than we were. 110%.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the lessons too that people have suggested is, if something is wrong, go get help. I mean, like, if you're in an accident and your arm is dangling by a thread, do you not go to the ER? I mean, if you feel you might have a breast cancer scare, what are you waiting for? Go get a freaking mammogram.
Yeah.
What is there, like, something wrong with getting help when you need it?
Yeah. And again, that also goes into preventative. Like, go see your doctor once a year and just see what they have to say. Mine is going to be in October, and that'll be a whole separate episode when Dr. Olson says, holy crap, woman. Your cholesterol. You might be surprised. I'm telling myself I got 2 months to pull that shit together.
Do it. Do it.
Under the clock. But yeah, just go address it, whatever it is. Because, and I get the whole, like, burying the head in the sand issue. I understand why people do that. Cognitively understand it. My mode of operation has always been, tell me what's wrong so I can formulate a game plan. So let's find out what it is and let's get a game plan.
Right.
So just do it. Respect yourself and do self-care. And that kind of ties into what we were just talking about, but also on the daily, take the walk, make the tea, just whatever it is, do the diamond art, whatever it is that feeds your soul. Yoga. You and I both love yoga. Just do what it is.
And set a boundary around it so that it's not being like, oh, never mind. I'll just put this aside and I'll do something else. Like, guard that.
Like Brody talked last time about his Dungeons and Dragons. You guard that time.
It's difficult though. Like I'm working with my career coach, which is a form of therapy in and of itself about time blocking, right? And doing exactly the thing you're talking about of blocking that time and protecting that time. But damn, it's hard. Like not, especially if it's things you don't want. I should block out time to do my finances once a week. I don't want to do that shit.
Right.
That's boring. I hate it.
Gross.
So yeah. So it's, I don't know. What advice would you give to, I guess, me then? Like does it just take strength of will, which is just a muscle that also fatigues? Like, I don't know. Give me your sage wisdom here.
Actually, I wouldn't say that what we've seen is that doesn't fatigue as much as when you think about having to do things causes you fatigue. That whole, like, I should. So
it's not even, if it's just in the calendar, if this is happening, you just submit to doing it.
I would say do 2 extra things. One for me is have an accountability partner. Like if your wife or somebody you love knows you're doing this, that you can say, hey, I followed my calendar today. And they're like, great job. That's awesome. Maybe you'll get late tonight. Or you reward yourself.
Who's your accountability partner?
Maybe I'll lay myself tonight. Okay. I see where you're going. So either way, that works out. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So another sage piece of advice. You do not need to know your passion right away. You do not need to know what you're going to be when you grow up.
No.
Things evolve and change over time. They're supposed to.
Yeah. And as parents, or as adults, could we just calm down about saying to the sophomore in high school, so where are you going to go to college? What are you going to major in? And then heaven forbid you're a senior and it's April and you haven't you don't know where you're going in the fall. Major, yeah. It's like, why? Your prefrontal cortex is not done developing. It's okay.
Right.
I think when I worked at Northern, and this could have changed, but our career person at the time taught us that an average adult changes careers 7 times. Careers, not jobs, but careers.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's beautiful. I mean, I love the fact that over time my interests have changed and evolved, and I'm doing different things I never thought I would be doing. That's awesome.
And it makes you I look at my retail experience, that has made me such a more well-rounded person. I appreciate people in the service industry so much more. I'm kinder to people in the service industry. It's taught me patience because retail is not a ton of fun.
No. Do you love how I assigned you this next one? Because you are the queen of connections. Becky knows every person that ever lived on earth and their names. Like she knows their names.
So yeah, because we moved to Aberdeen, I get a job as a scorekeeper for City League basketball, and then I get a job at Herberger's. But yeah, so you just do that. You have a bunch of different jobs, but connections and that's what Aberdeen is all about. It's one of the things I love about Aberdeen, is they do look after each other. I mean, I remember when I left Home Federal and then I went and worked for a couple of attorneys, and I was walking across the street one day to do some business for them, and a guy literally stopped. I won't say his name, but he stopped in the middle and he's like, "Why didn't you tell me you were looking for a new job? Like, we could have taken you." And I'm like, "Well, I didn't know."
Yeah.
But that's how Aberdeen is.
Yes. But I think the world is much smaller now because of internet. And so connections and networking, so much more important than grades or scores on tests. It's like, who do you know? What kind of relationship have you developed with them? I mean, it's just amazing what can happen.
It really is. Yeah. And it does allow you to keep in contact with people and just keep up with them. And, you and I are in the relationship business. Let's be real, and I just love hearing people's stories. Hindsight's 2020. And if you really look at it, not only is hindsight 2020, but there comes wisdom with age. And one of my favorite quotes is Maya Angelou, and I can't remember where she wrote this, but she said, yesterday you did the best you could with what you knew, and today you know better, so today you will do better.
But, don't you remember when you were a teenager and your parents would tell you something, be like, like my mom told me repeatedly, never get in a vehicle of someone you don't know. Don't do it. Right. So my best friend from childhood and I were going down the Arizona River, the lazy river float thing. Anyway, and there was these 2 guys in a Jeep we thought they were hot guys. I don't know. They're like, hey, you want to ride? Dumb and Dumber. Okay. We get in. So they're riding around us. We're driving around. All of a sudden, we're going up the hill, people. We are going up the hill. One of them says, oh, we're almost to the point of no return. At which point, I'm like, she has asthma and we don't have her inhaler. And she did an Oscar-winning performance of having an asthma attack. And I said, she will die without her inhaler. They turned around and they drove us back. And then, I mean, you guys, it was a miracle.
Holy shit,
we would have
Fran.
been, I'm not kidding you. But this is an example of not listening to your parents because what do they know?
But quick thinking, though. I want to give young Fran a shout out.
I mean, I grew up in Chicago, you know, but still, if she didn't pull that off, we'd be dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. And listen to your gut. Mm-hmm. That is our inner wisdom. When you have that feeling inside that something is off, so many times we talk ourselves out of it. Like, oh, you're just making a big deal out of nothing. Or what if I hurt their feelings? No, people. Listen to your gut.
I had somebody in law enforcement tell me a few years ago that in the Midwest, we're even worse because we just want to be nice.
Yes.
And it's like, no, it's okay sometimes to just be like, get the frick out of my face now. Mm-hmm. We don't have to be nice.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Experiences and quality time with others are more important than material things. And if that's, I think we've done a good job of drilling that into my kids' head. Mm-hmm. You know, save for the vacation. Don't worry about the fancy purse or leggings or whatever it is. If you can do both, then great. But if you can't, save the money for the experience.
Right. And I do see younger generation more enamored with that idea. Mm-hmm. They're not really, it doesn't seem like they're as materialistic.
No, I think you're right.
Which I love to see. That's awesome. Do not worship your children. I mean, I love my children, but I'm not going to put them on a pedestal and like bow down to them.
I don't know how many times a week I say kids are assholes. I mean, I love them. I love them with all my heart, but
yeah, it's a challenge. But I think that the more you worship them, you're basically teaching them to be an asshole because then they have that entitlement thing.
Absolutely, they do. And that's just obnoxious for everybody as they grow up.
How many times do you hear from parents, my child is so smart. They're so smart. They're the smartest or they're the best or whatever. It's like, are they assholes?
Right.
Are they nice?
Yeah.
Are they kind? Are they conscientious? Like there are plenty of people that are smart assholes.
Right. Or, okay, so they're smart here. Mm-hmm. You know, are they going to be, you know, one of our neighbors, her kids went to the School of Mines. And then one of the things she talked about was the adjustment. Mm-hmm. Used to being the smartest kid ever. And then you're at School of Mines in Rapid City where everybody was the smartest in their class.
Right.
There's just amazing. And then you have to learn that you're maybe not the biggest.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that leads into the next one, which is being different is beautiful, you know? And so I wouldn't want to be best friends with somebody exactly like me. Mm-hmm. I think that would drive me crazy and vice versa. Mm-hmm. I love being surrounded by people who are different, and take that how you need to. Mm-hmm. You know, different can mean so many things. So be you.
Right. Right. And don't let other people define you because you are different. So why don't you share what some of our listeners suggested?
Right. Because I loved some of these suggestions. Mm-hmm. Don't stop going to therapy and or taking meds just because you start feeling better. I always equate this to antibiotics, right? Like you take antibiotics, you're supposed to take them for 10 days, but you know what? On day 6, you feel better. So you quit taking them. What happens? The infection comes back. Mm-hmm. So stick with it. Develop a plan of action with your therapist, develop a plan of action with your doctor. You know, if you're thinking about going off your medication, talk to your therapist and your doctor and just say, hey, I kind of want to go off it. What do you think? And then we work on it together. Nobody's going to like literally sit on you and force meds down your throat, or I'm not going to come to your house and say, no, you're not quitting therapy.
Right.
Buckle up, sister.
Yep.
Yeah. One of the things we want to talk about down the road, we're actually going to do a whole different episode on this, is there is such a thing, not only of postpartum depression, but postpartum anxiety. Mm-hmm. And I've seen a lot of people with this, scared to cross the street with their newborn in case they get hit by a car. Just a whole ton of fears that go with that.
Right. And the last one is, a listener said that once you have a child, you are no longer the main character in your life story.
Which I think is such a beautiful way to put that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But then I thought about it, and it's like my parents were always the characters of their life story. Their life didn't change.
Have you met Sandra?
Yes.
Is that who we want to idolize?
But seriously, that generation did not do like it just was not a big life-changing event. It's like you had kids, they knew their place, you lived your life, and you fed them, you clothed them.
Yeah.
They played outside.
I would say that was my dad, but my mom, I always knew, and still to this day do, we are the center of her world.
Okay.
And she was always, she always made it very plain and clear. And I've hopefully done a good job of this with our kids. Mm-hmm. There is nothing we could say or do that would have her not love us.
Right.
And I think that's such a beautiful gift. Mm-hmm. Now, we weren't up on pedestals. It wasn't that. I mean, my kids were always like, we're always going to believe any adult over you. So don't even try to lie, because your word means shit in this house. Mm-hmm. Because when do teenagers lie? When their lips are moving. Uh-huh. But yeah, there's nothing you could ever do that would disappoint us to the point where we would not love you.
Right. Right. And I agree. But I think what this listener was saying is that he might have felt like life was no longer about him, in the sense that, there wasn't much time left for him, maybe,
And it's not. And I think that's a common, feeling. And Brody, you can chime in, amongst dads, because you really do play second fiddle abruptly.
He doesn't.
No, but I mean, when you were talking about all this stuff that people don't tell you when you get pregnant, like when you become a father, or when your wife gets pregnant or your partner gets pregnant, there are all kinds of things that nobody tells you. Mm-hmm. My wife, being an OBGYN, even a resident, I sat her down before she was like maybe 6 months pregnant, 6 or 7. And I said, okay, I need a flow chart here. I need to know what all the options are, and at what point the threshold is crossed that now we're going to C-section, or now we're doing this. And it was it was incredibly helpful for me to just have some grasp of what the hell was going on. And so I think that was great. Yes, when you become a father, you do, like, there's all this stuff to do, but you can't do any of it. Mm-hmm. I got nipples, Greg. Can you milk me? And you can't do anything necessarily, but you want to be helpful, but yet society makes you feel useless, right?
Right.
When the baby is born, you're not there changing diapers. You're supposed to go have a cigar and a scotch and all that. Like, right. So yeah, the whole, like, I'm very passionate about just the changing just the whole way that fatherhood is looked at. Mm-hmm. And it's even beyond the machismo or even just the absentee father thing. Like, you obviously, that's the base. You got to be involved.
Right.
But then, I mean, when my friends when their wives are in labor, I'm the one sending care packages to the dad. Like, here's some candy, and here's what you should do, and get some sleep, like that part is not, and it's not focused on, rightly so, because there's a bigger thing going on, but I know what it's like to be there now.
Yeah.
And so I think it's an important piece. But yeah, fatherhood is a trip that no one prepares you for.
What I love, Brody, is you're so vocal about it.
Yeah.
I really do appreciate that, because I think more men need to hear that.
It's 2021. I'm woke. I
woke
work,
as fuck is Brody.
That's me. I work, and I'm surrounded by a lot of strong, independent women, and I love it. It's not always easy.
No,
but it's really important. So yeah.
It's just learning how to work together, I think.
Right. And I guess what I would encourage you guys listening to the show is, like, when you raise your kids and you want to give them some information, maybe you should include some of this stuff.
Absolutely.
Maybe you should give them more of this kind of information so that they don't have to listen to a podcast necessarily. Of course, they should always listen to our podcast, but you know what I mean.
I agree. And with that, we're the Shrinks.
And that's a wrap.